Today we're doing a live stream.
Yep.
Today's topic of the live stream, the first thing is a quick context clip. So I was watching Rick and Morty season 2, episode 5, and this
Okay.
question for you. The context for this is Earth is being observed by these aliens with giant heads and then they're floating out in space. They
Okay.
transport Earth. That's the important part.
What the hell happened?
Whoa.
I think planet Earth has just been transported. It's probably a bad time to mention it, but any astronauts you guys had in orbit are definitely dead.
So so there's Earth. It gets transported by those heads
Yeah.
in space, and then
Mhm.
they say, and then Rick says that whatever astronauts you had in space are definitely dead. So my question to you is, why would they be dead?
So if they're smart enough to transport the whole Earth, they're smart enough to transport everything in orbit of the Earth as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's
But even if they didn't, even if they like only went up to the atmosphere, so anything in low altitude and high orbit are gone, like the astronauts are still there. Like they're not dead.
so when you're super far away from an object, simultaneity becomes cloudy, and therefore the delay. This is stupid. So let me think.
Oh, okay. I was ready to believe you.
Okay. Okay. So they're not assuming that we can determine what now is on Earth, where it is now, and we can determine now where Earth was.
Okay.
And we can sync that up.
Okay.
Then immediately after teleportation to the Earth, they should still be alive, right? Going
Still
in a
there,
straight line. But in 90 minutes or whatever, some number of hours after their air runs out, they'll die.
Just like suffocate. Sure. And I guess without the Earth's mass there, they're no longer in orbit. They're like whatever orbit they were on, it's now tangent and they just drift off to wherever.
Right. So I guess they are now in orbit of the sun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I brought up the simultaneity-ness of it, because apparently when you get really far away from objects, little changes in speed in the faraway places can really change the simultaneity far away. So
are you talking about this thing in special relativity, maybe general relativity? I'm not sure. One of those where it's like if you have a flashlight that turns on and you have two people standing next to each other, but one of them's going forward. The one that is going forward, even though they're at the same position, observes the flashlight turn on first. Is that what you're talking about?
That's right. If you do a turn on, turn off. Okay. Yeah. You do turn on, turn off of a flashlight. A person moving versus a person stationary relative to the flashlight, we'll see different durations of the turn on, turn off. And I guess for sometimes things that are simultaneous in one frame can be non-simultaneous in another.
Oh yeah, this is the classic. I think it was Kirk or maybe Picard where they shoot while they're moving and then there's like a double image. What is this? You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know what that is. What is that? That's cool.
It's like how they shot first. Even I don't know. Maybe we'll encounter it. I can't describe it well.
Okay. So
my follow-up thought on this was maybe like if the Earth was pulled out of space, now there's a void there.
Yeah.
And so all the astronauts get like sucked in and crushed. But I think that's wrong. I think that's if there's an atmosphere.
That's right. So I guess they are the void. When the Earth is there, there's a sink, like a thing pulling them down, which is keeping them in orbit.
Okay.
And then when it leaves, gosh, if you're like in the ocean and you like remove a large object, it feels like there'll be a rushing in.
Yeah.
But in space, there's only space, and there's no like medium. Rushing of space. So it just disappears, and so now the astronauts were in orbit. They just go off in a straight line.
Whatever their tangent was.
Kind of, my intuition wants it to be like this, and then
right.
I think
but
that's wrong.
Space. There's no atmosphere.
I mean, what if? I mean, teleportation of the entire Earth is not feasible, as far as we know. But if it was possible, maybe there's some kind of secondary effect where it's like space is like, I'm totally messed up now. So I'm going to suck in. No way.
I mean, I guess we could say that the space-time metric was messed up there. Or I guess how do I say it nicely? It's the curvature of space-time just got messed up.
Right. How would you teleport the Earth without messing up space-time?
You would replace it with an equally massive black hole or whatever. A little baby black hole.
Little baby black hole. Yeah, that's right. Maybe do a little switcheroo.
No sloppy.
In which case, the astronauts are still in orbit. They're still going to die.
They're going to run out of oxygen, yeah.
Yeah. But they'll run out of oxygen in orbit.
I just thought of something which maybe is cartoony, but maybe is something for future scientists to figure out. So we have this image of like space-time as a fabric. You put a bowling ball there. That's the same thing as having a star. And so you get this curved space-time. But if you were to suddenly remove that mass, what happens to the fabric of space? Does it do some like oscillatory thing until it damps out? Could you use that? Could you use that spring to like launch something very fast?
Oh, cool. I mean, okay, as far as it out. In my extremely naive understanding, it feels like there would be space-time waves, gravity waves.
Okay. I buy that.
It would and then dampen down, I guess.
Maybe that's a signature of advanced civilizations. If they figure out how to do large-scale teleportations, we should be seeing those type of gravity waves, as opposed to like the binary star gravity waves that have some other signature. I don't know.
Right.
I'm not a LIGO guy.
Gosh. Do you think the signature... So say they transported a whole planet, this advanced civilization. I feel like the gravity waves would still be weaker than for these colliding stars, just because the mass considerations.
I don't know. Because if you really have this DT, this infinitesimal time, then the amplitude could become enormous.
Right. So how long does it take to teleport the planet? It can't be instantaneous. It's got to take some time.
I don't know. I don't know what the rules are for this.
We're making up these rules. Yeah. Okay. It's so speculative. In summary, though, the astronauts would not be dead instantaneously.
Yeah.
Assuming it was a clean transport.
You got whatever your oxygen tanks got.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was it for the quick concept.
Wait, last thing. Are you going to be the guy in mission control or whatever this is, being like, technically, sir, they're still alive? Like, what?
Technically, sir, they're contemplating their lives right now. In the darkness of space, they still have hope, but they can't see Earth. They're losing it by the second.
I mean, I wonder if you could get on the horn and be like, hey, super advanced alien civilizations guy, can we make sure our guys are here too?
We got like 3 dudes out there. Can you hook us up? Can you bring them back?
And they're like, no.
One of them owes me money.
Yeah. No.
Okay, so that was it. My quick context clip.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have reaction to Father Roderick.
Oh yeah, this is interesting.
Father Roderick's Story Secrets. That's his channel. Doing quite well. Andor isn't just Star Wars. It's a warning. I have not seen this. Let's see what it does.
Andor isn't just telling a story about a galaxy far, far away, but it's actually mirroring our world. There are no Jedi in Andor, no grand villains in dark robes.
True.
Just a slow, creeping takeover by a system that tightens its grip bit by bit until people believe that resistance is impossible. Andor isn't just one of the best Star Wars shows, it's one of the most important ones because it shows us how authoritarian rule really happens. And if we look around in the world in which we live, this is happening right now in our world. And
we're going to stop there. I have heard this as a good thing about Andor. It shows like the Empire, not in this like it's evil, there's like huge killings of people, but like the bureaucracy and the paperwork and the posturing and in the intelligence agencies. It's like everyday stuff that has to get done in the Empire, but it's not some grand thing.
Right.
It
really feels more real.
Yeah.
It feels more realistic. It feels more like you could live in that universe and you could see how things are working because there's the parallel to how we work here in the world.
Yeah.
I see it. I wonder if this is why Andor is one of the most, if not the most popular Star Wars spinoff.
Oh, I think it's actually the ratings are poor, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I've also heard that it was poor at the beginning, but there's been a slow burn increase.
Okay.
So
okay.
Maybe we'll see how season 2 does, because that could be a good measurement for how much this word of mouth has spread.
I see.
But yeah, it definitely grounds the Star Wars universe in this, like, I don't know what you would say, like the day-to-day
It feels like
bureaucratic
you could
stuff.
live in it, as opposed to seeing a Jedi flip over your head. You're like, well, that seems kind of
Yeah.
okay. Okay, continue.
What I love about Andor is that it keeps showing us that small acts of rebellion really matter and can make a difference. Hey, I'm Father Roderick. I'm a priest and I'm a geek, and I love to share with you the deeper layers of the stories that we love. And today we need to talk about Andor because it is holding up a mirror to our world in a way that is honestly a little scary. Let's talk about the way in which Andor portrays the rise of authoritarianism. Tyranny does not start with stormtroopers marching through the streets.
True.
In Andor, it starts with something much smaller, things that people barely notice. In Andor, it begins with corporate security, not the Empire itself. Local enforcers abusing their power, cutting corners, covering for each other. Cassian killed.
I agree with that assessment.
I do too, but I struggle with this as well because every society has lots of corruption and problems.
Different forms, yeah.
And he's talking about like the slow creeping corruption, slow creeping changes. When does a member of the public be like, okay, that's enough?
This is the line, no further. This here.
Because everybody's like, if I was living in the past and some evil dictator came to power, I'd stand up.
Yeah.
But like, would you stand up? Like when? Like when is it too much? Or
so, what you're saying is when the evil group rises to power, and then if you can stamp them out, then you can like let's look back and see and trace back where their origin was. Then you say, oh, look at this small corruption. That's where it started. But realistically, there's corruption happening like left and right constantly, and a lot of it just fizzles out. Like for example, if you come up to me in the supermarket, like we run into each other at the supermarket, and you got one item, and I'm like, hey, just throw it on my line, on my pile, and I'll get over you, right? Like that's corruption. You should have waited your turn in line. But that's so small, and it's not going to turn into it's not going to snowball into something big, and so like whatever. So it's hard to tell when. I mean, yes, true. The corruption starts small, and people get away with it, and they can grow and grow and grow. But a lot of the corruption is kind of whatever.
And then the other thing is like, if they like a nascent dictatorship gets stomped down in the early stages, well, that's just an oppressed political movement. So how many oppressed political movements in history who are viewed as like, oh, they were just stamped down by the police, or actually were nascent, I don't know, dictatorial movement.
They're on their way to totalitarianism.
Right. So they were correctly stamped down, but through the lens of history, we're like, actually, they were oppressed. Like it could flip.
I mean, but gosh, also if they were not stamped down, if they rose to power, they would have accused the other side of being the totalitarian people that they shut down.
Right. So who's who? It's so difficult to tell.
It's messy.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
Yeah.
Two corrupt officers, and suddenly the system overreacts. More control, more surveillance, more force. Small injustices get ignored until they become normal. And then the real empire steps in. New laws, harsher sentences, fewer rights. 1 minute, Cassian is a fugitive, and the next he's being arrested for literally nothing and sentenced to 6 years in a high-tech labor prison. No trial, no defense, no way out. And that's exactly how authoritarianism takes hold. Not with a dramatic coup, but with a slow tightening of the system. The rules change, people adapt, and before they know it, they're trapped. Most people in Andor don't fight back, not because they support the Empire.
That's a spicy thing to say.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, but it also depends on your worldview.
Also, like he said that totalitarianism doesn't happen with a coup. I think sometimes it does. I think there's a coup. And then it starts.
Yeah, I guess if I give him the favorable interpretation, which I should, so there's a coup that happens, but what he's saying is that the totalitarianism started before that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I mean, sometimes though the coup can be the turning point, and without the coup, it never would have happened. Gosh, and I think it depends on the particular situation and the country and culture, where a coup could be really effective. In another
Mhm.
culture, it could be like illegitimate and not work.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is the definition of the coup is also kind of academic. Like if there's a clear, we came in with guns and we killed the former
Mhm.
president, then that's a coup, right? But you could also have these soft power people making deals behind the
Mhm.
scene, and the coup happened, but wasn't never public.
And the coup could be a reaction to the totalitarianism,
It could be
taking
an
it back,
appropriate coup, right?
right? So a revolution to counter tyranny. I guess the example of that is the American
Freedom war.
Revolution. Yeah,
Yep.
war for freedom. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they were saying there's totalitarian rule from England, and the
Mhm.
revolution was what got
Mhm.
rid of it. Ah,
Kind of depends on who wins,
yeah. Well, it's not a coup if I win.
right?
But because they think that resistance is pointless. The prisoners in Narkina 5, they believe if they just keep their heads down, they'll get out. Until they realize the horrible truth. No one is getting out. They're already doomed. They just didn't know it yet. And that's the real danger of authoritarian rule. It convinces people that fighting back will only make things worse, that it's better to comply, that they have no choice. But Andor reminds us they do. The biggest lesson in Andor is that rebellion does not start with grand gestures. It starts with small choices. Nemik's manifesto says it best. Tyranny requires constant effort. The minute people start pushing back, the whole system wobbles. Think
Wait,
of
wait.
Marva's
I
speech.
isn't that what wait, that's not quite right, based on what he said, right? He's saying there's a slow creeping tyranny, one decision there just to put my
Mhm.
head down, one decision
Mhm.
there to look away from a small bit of corruption. That seems very stable. And it takes a lot of effort to have a good head on my shoulders and say, well, I can't put up with that corruption. I got to make the right decision here. So on one
So,
hand, is tyranny easy or is it difficult?
so I give him the favorable
Mhm.
interpretation, and I think what he did was a time jump.
Okay.
So like at the beginning stages, this is where people let things slide, and
Mhm.
they're not diligent enough. They're not questioning. And then
Yep.
I think he then transitioned to once the totalitarian rule is like established, then if people are so beaten that they're not doing uprisings, then they're not starting uprisings, then the totalitarian is very stable. The structure of the government is very stable.
I see.
But if it's been, I don't know, years, decades, something of like being beaten down, beaten down, beaten down,
Mhm.
and there's like this underlayer of foment, like people getting
Yeah.
angry, but nobody can talk about it. But everyone's like, I'm ready, like I'm ready. And then I think that's when he's then talking about the totalitarian government needs to
Mm.
like keep it down always, because who knows when the spark turns on, and then
I see what you're saying. So once a government is established, power is established, a
Mhm.
government with consent of the people is more stable
right.
than a totalitarian government, which is like trying to stamp down,
Mhm.
rebellion here and there. It takes a constant vigilance, and that's unstable. I see it.
Gosh, to make it again the American Revolution,
Mhm.
if England had troops stationed in the colonies, like more
Mhm.
then it might have stamped out the revolution.
That's right. And then, but keeping that revolution stamped down, you got to have troops all over the colonies.
Always. Yep.
It would just be, it'd be hard. That'd be really hard.
It'd be hard. And I mean, and the US wasn't the only colony. Like it's
That's
hard.
right.
It's hard.
It's hard. Yeah.
And like the more each colony of English colonies, the more each one gets angry, the more troops, and unsustainable.
Right. It's unsustainable. That's right. It would be easier if it was consent of the governed and they wanted to be a part of the empire.
Yeah.
Then they're in better shape because they don't have to do so much monitoring. Easy.
Tricky.
She doesn't pick up a blaster.
Wait, did I just say tricky as if I'm the totalitarian government? Whoops.
I mean,
She
okay, you're
simply
putting
tell-
yourself in the totalitarian shoes,
Mhm.
which is a good mental exercise.
Mhm.
So that when we rise to power, we know what we're doing.
That's right. We know how to read people. We understand them. Understand their hearts and minds. That's what it's all about.
Tells people to wake up, and they do. Think of Kino Loy, the prison leader. At first, he enforces the system, and then he realizes the truth. He gives people hope. He leads them to freedom, even though he knows that he can't escape himself. None of these people started out as heroes. They were just people who decided to stop being afraid.
I like that.
That's how real change begins. The reason that Andor hits so hard is because it's not just about a galaxy far, far away. It's about us. It's about how power is seized, not in one big event, but step by step. It's about how fear keeps people in line until someone stands up. And it's about how resistance isn't about one big hero, but about ordinary people making small, brave choices. Because here's the truth. Tyranny only works if people let it. And that is why Andor is more than just Star Wars. It's a reminder that the smallest act of courage matters. That even in the darkest times, someone, anyone, can stand up and say no. And when enough people do that,
that sentiment is very different than the other Star Wars. They were raised like the blood child of Palpatine, special people.
Yeah, and also, like, I do believe that tyrannical governments, they don't just spring from the mind of a few people. It is there's a huge social movement probably associated with it. May not be the majority, but it can be a significant minority that somehow takes power. Like, it's not just everybody hates it and it somehow became power. No, there is actually a movement associated with it.
There's a large chunk of people that really, truly, genuinely think they're doing the right thing.
That's right. And I think without that, it never would have gotten started in the first place.
Right.
Whatever.
I don't think people wake up saying like, I want to be evil. Like,
right. Gosh, and that's the flip side. If somebody believes that tyranny is happening and a revolution is required to overcome it, the revolution itself could become tyrannical, which then requires a revolution to overcome, which then that becomes, you could like get into this cycle of like revolution and tyranny.
I guess for like I don't know if this is a cartoony example. I don't know if it's going to even work, but for the interest of say like a public pool, no glass bottles. Like people break the glass bottles with sharp feet. People are barefoot, like sharp things on the ground, and people get cuts on the feet. That's a terrible idea, right? But then you could, so you get that passed. You get a I don't know, a bylaw, whatever it's called, for no glass near the pool. And then you start extending that radius, and then you say, well, this is super successful. For the interest of safety, we should do another thing. And like, you could really balloon until it's too much.
Until the people who are visiting the public pool have no freedom based on safety. Each individual law could be reasonable.
Right. Like no plastic bags, because plastic bags get caught in the cleaning system. And now it's a problem. So just no plastic bags.
Yeah.
And like no cigarette butts. And then, I mean, that one I like. But then you could really get more and more minute and more rules. And so it approaches this totalitarian pool, the public pool. But all along the way, it was in the best interest. Made sense.
Until the storming of the lifeguard stand.
Whoa. That's right.
Well, it's the revolution.
Gosh, yeah. And so in the interest of pool goer safety, we're going to have a bunch of lifeguards monitoring everyone all the time. Like, that's a reduction in freedom, but it's also, I want lifeguards.
That's right. So you not only have the lifeguards in like sitting in their chairs monitoring the pool, you have ones wandering around with billy clubs.
Yep.
Enforcing.
Yeah, you don't want to like have a child accidentally drown or like walk off into the forest somewhere. You put little ankle monitors on everyone, little heart rate detectors.
That's right.
For
and then you have to register at the public pool to make sure.
Because you want to make sure everyone that comes in is also checked out. So I need a body count. I need a name count. I need an ID.
So I set up a checkpoint, to get into the pool area. Okay.
And I don't want people doing drugs in my pool. You gotta search them.
Search them. If you want to be in the public pool, you got to show your papers and be subject to a search.
Yep. Anywhere that a drug could be hidden.
At what point do we do a revolution against the pool? Is it bylaw 5 or bylaw 10 or bylaw 15? At what point is it too much? It's so difficult.
Well, we should have been vigilant at the very beginning when they started putting these laws that we didn't want on us.
But the glass law was reasonable. The cigarette butt law was reasonable. But the ankle monitor law was unreasonable.
It's all unreasonable. Live
Pure
free.
chaos. Live free. Die hard.
Let's finish this.
Okay.
System falls apart. So watch Andor. Pay attention. And most importantly, when you see injustice, don't stay silent. Be a rebel. Even if you're just a farm boy from Tatooine, your small actions can change the future of the galaxy. If you love these kinds of deep dives, subscribe to my newsletter at fatherroderick.com.
I like it, but he lost me at that last bit where he says, even if it's just a farm boy from Tatooine, he's like the chosen one. What?
Right. He blew up the Death Star. He got the fame and the glory. He's talking about like the person that you didn't even notice in Star Wars who walked right by, and he didn't stand for little bits of injustice in the cantina or at work or, on a ship that never gets any glory, and he just goes about his life. That's the most important person.
But that's not Luke.
But that's not Luke.
I mean, they didn't check him for midichlorians, but he would be very high midichlorian guy.
And he's a humble farm boy, but he blew up the Death Star. That's a big event. That's a revolutionary sort of thing, not some tiny event.
He's so Excelsior that on his first mission, he went on the attack squadron to go for the Death Star bombing run. Like what? He should have been doing like maintenance or something.
Right. He should have been in. Yeah, he should have been support event. But his midichlorian.
But overall, this video, I like it.
I like it too. Okay, I think that's it for us today on the live stream.
Next time.
See you guys next time for whatever's coming up next time.
Whatever. We'll figure it out.